With Thanksgiving right around the corner, I wanted to share the 10 books from my personal collection that I'm most thankful for. And this won't simply be the most valuable books, but the ones that have the most meaning to me. And so I'm looking forward to showing them off and then sharing why they're so important to me. So to start off at number 10, we have Uncanny XMen number 266, which contains the first appearance of Gambit. And the reason I'm so thankful for this book is because I actually passed on buying it off the newsstand as a kid, even though my friend told me that I should buy it because it had the first appearance of this new cool character named Gambit. But I took a look at his copy and I didn't think the headstock looked very cool, and I wasn't really into the pink outfit and these kind of high boots, and so I was like, I don't think this character is really going to be anything. And so I just, again, passed on it. And of course, he ends up becoming super popular, especially to any kid who grew up in the 90s, like myself, who watched the X-Men animated series show. And in that show, I thought he was one of the coolest, and so I regretted not picking it up then. And as a kid, it was always out of reach in terms of buying it as a back issue. And so it's something that for decades I lamented. But finally, when I started investing in comics a little more seriously a year and a half ago, I had the opportunity to get this at a good price and redeem my childhood mistake. All right, well, at number 9, we have Iron Man number 1, which of course is his first solo series. And why I'm thankful for this is because it's just such an iconic key, but in such a high grade. It's the only Silver Age book at all, much less this nice key, that I have in a 9.0 grade. And so I just think it's super cool. I got a good deal on it. It wasn't even one that I was necessarily hunting for, but I had the opportunity to buy it, and I'm super thankful to have it in my collection. All right, at number 8, we have X-Men number 4, which of course contains the first appearance of the Scarlet Witch, Quicksilver, Toad, and Mastermind, and the second appearance of Magneto. And why I'm so thankful for this book is, first of all, because it's the earliest X-Men that I own in my collection. And secondly, the day it came in the mail just happened to be the day that I watched Avengers Age of Ultron with my kids for the first time. And so it was the first time they were exposed to the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. And after we watched the movie, I then say, hey kids, guess what came in the mail today? And I brought this book down and pointed them out to them. And it was just this cool moment with my family that I'll never forget. And so I am super thankful to have this book. All right, at number 7, we have Amazing Spider-Man number 129, which is actually off at CGC now, so I don't have my copy. But of course, this contains the first appearance of the Punisher. And the reason I'm so thankful for this is because the Punisher is one of my favorite characters. And so this is a book that I'd wanted for a long time, especially after John Bernthal nailed his role in his Netflix series. And I'm really hoping that the MCU that he's now been brought into will really do that character justice, but I'm so happy to have this book. All right, at number 6, we have Journey into Mystery number 85, which contains the first appearance of Loki. And the reason I'm so thankful for this is that it's the first big boy book that I ever bought. So about a year and a half ago is when I first started thinking of buying comics as an investment, and I started off, of course, with very small investments where buying a $10 comic seemed like a big deal. And then all of a sudden, a few months into starting to buy a bunch of back issues, I had the opportunity to buy this at what I thought was a really good price. And so I thought about it over and over, went back and forth in my thinking, had to sit down with my wife and said, hey, I'm thinking about spending this much money on a comic book because I didn't want any of those kind of secrets between us. And I was really at a loss to know what to do, but I knew that it was a good investment. And so I pulled the trigger, bought this book, and man, once the dam broke, the money started flowing, and I've obviously been able to pick up a lot of other cool books since then, but this is where it really got started. All right, at number 5, we have Amazing Spider-Man number 50, which contains the first appearance of Kingpin and this very classic Amazing Spider-Man cover. And why I'm so thankful for this is because I got it by helping out another friend, Marco from Switch Comics, get his all-time grail, Journey into Mystery 83. So he was looking for funds to get that book, and he was selling a bunch of his comics, and he was quite a bit short of what he needed, and so he ended up pawning a bunch of his comics to me, where I basically gave him a short-term loan in exchange for me holding on to his comics in case he defaulted on that loan, which of course he didn't. He paid me back. And as a part of that deal, he ended up selling me this book at a really good price. And so I really will always remember how not only was I able to get a good book, but also help a friend get a good book through buying this one. All right, well, speaking of friends that I've made through comic collecting, at number 4, we have Daredevil number 1, which of course contains the first appearance of Daredevil. And why I'm so thankful for this is because I got it from a seller who I bought a lot of comics from, and we built a friendship together. He's a good friend of the channel. You might know he's helped out with some of the giveaways that we've done by donating books. But he had this book for sale, and it was in a raw condition, and he did me a real favor by selling it to me at a 1.0 price, but then me obviously having seen it graded and trusting me enough that if it came back higher, which I was pretty sure it would, I thought it'd be in the 225 range, so I was pleasantly surprised that I would send him more money later. And it really meant a lot to me that he trusted me that much, because of course I could have reneged on it. And so I'm super thankful for that and for the friendship we've developed. And he actually recently told me that he's going to donate some other books to my next giveaway of 500 subscribers. So if you haven't subscribed, consider doing so now, helping us get to 500, and I'll soon be making an announcement about what those books will be. All right, at number 3, we have The Incredible Hulk, number 181, which of course contains the first appearance of Wolverine. And why I'm so thankful for this book is that I got it for free from my father-in-law, who last summer, when I told him I'd gotten into collecting comics, said that he had a bunch of comics in his basement and I could just have whatever was there. And there were thousands of comics that I found there. And it was so much fun looking through all of them. And of course, when I got to the Hulk box, I started going through and got to 170, 171, 172, and my heart is starting to race. And saw 180, which of course is a big book in and of itself, which some would say is the Wolverine's real first appearance. And then the big one, 181, was there. And 182, which is a nice Wolverine key, was not. Oh man, did I dodge a bullet. Oh, I would have been heartbroken if it had jumped from 180 to 182, but thankfully it didn't. And so it's something that will always be special to me. Because I got it from my father-in-law. Obviously got it for free is awesome, because it's a testimony of my father-in-law's kindness, and it's one that I plan on passing down to one of my kids one day. And I don't know if they'll have to fight over who gets it. I'll try to kind of divvy up some of these comics between them, but it'll hopefully become like a family heirloom. I hope I'll give it to the kid who's most likely to hang on to it and pass it to his kids. And so if any of my kids see this video, you better let me think that you're going to keep it. So, all right, at number 2, we have New Mutants number 98, which of course is the first appearance of Deadpool. And why I'm so thankful for this book is because I actually did buy this one off the rack when I was a kid. And so out of all the comics I collected in my first phase of collecting, this is clearly the most valuable one. And I just got it back from CGC. Some of you might have seen that video. And I had just had this book in a drawer for 30 years. And so I was really uncertain of the condition. I remember a year and a half ago when I went home and was like, hey, I need to put some of these nicer comics in bags and boards. Digging for this one. And my hands started getting sweaty because I knew that this book was close. And when I was handling it, I was so nervous about putting it into a bag and a board because it's the first time I'd really handled a very valuable comic. And I could tell it looked pretty nice. I didn't know exactly what it was going to get, and I was really hoping it would get in the 9s, and of course it did. It got a 9.2. And so it just brings back so many memories of collecting as a kid with my friends, and really the most enjoyable comic collecting phase of my life. And yeah, I can't tell you the nostalgia I have whenever I see this book. And which is kind of funny actually, because yeah, I really wasn't in love with this book as a kid. I mean, it was fine, but if you've read this book before, Deadpool was very different than the Deadpool that we know now, and so he wasn't someone who really stuck out. But I did collect the New Mutants, and so super happy that I did. I'd only started collecting actually, I think, with issue number 94, and so I could have easily missed out on this one, but I didn't, and it's the most valuable book from that era of my life. All right, well, at number 1, we have Secret Wars number 8. And so this is a book that I have only in a raw condition, and so I didn't feel like digging through all my boxes to find it. But the reason it's so important to me is because it was part of the first comics that I ever got. Before I actually started collecting comics, when I was about 6 years old, my mom took me to Kmart, and they had 3 comics for $1 packs. And I don't know if I bought them out of my allowance or if I just pointed them out and she got them for me. But whatever the case, I bought 2 of those packs. And one of those packs had Secret Wars 7 through 9. And again, even though I didn't collect comics, I read that book, and all 3 of those books actually, over and over and over again. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed them. Because, of course, in that storyline, you have all the heroes against all the villains. And it was just the coolest thing as a kid. And so that book is one that I will always love, considering how many times I read it and it's just thrown around. It's in decent condition. Probably certainly mid-grade, like maybe a 5 or 6. And so I've thought about sending it to CGC. But at the same time, it's one that I do want to maybe be able to flip through as I get older and not have it encapsulated. And so I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but again, just so many memories that I have with that book. And even though it's a mid-grade copy, it's one that I will never part with. And so I'm just super thankful for it. And if I hadn't bought those books and read through them over and over again, who knows if years later, when my friend got into comic collecting, would I have then gravitated towards comic collecting as well? I don't know. I don't think I would have. And so my whole life really was transformed by having those books. And the reason, of course, that I picked issue number 8 out of the 3 is because it's the one that's the most iconic. Really, all 3 of those books meant a lot to me as a kid. But number 8 is just a really cool story that I just happened to pick that one up as a kid in a random Kmart 3-pack. And so it's the one, of course, that has the most value. Even though number 7 isn't anything to sneeze at because it has the first appearance of the new Spider-Woman. But, of course, 8 is the real desirable issue with the first appearance of the alien costume. So there you have it, the 10 books in my collection that I am most thankful for. I'm curious, what books in your collection are you most thankful for? Tell me below, a top 10 or just 1 or 2 that you're really thankful for. Of course, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, again, I'd appreciate if you consider doing so as we're trying to get to 500. Like, comment, all those things that help out our channel. And of course, happy Thanksgiving.